This is Tabletop Weekly, and we are the partners of Solarian Games. I am Jason.
And I'm Peter.
All right, and this week's stories, we got a few of them here. D&D faces a real rival, a real one, not a pretend one, a real rival in Critical Role as a true showdown begins. Dark Horse reveals the first new Dungeons & Dragons comic. Board game manufacturing giant Panda expands production outside of China for the first time ever. And Tomb Raider RPG has been canceled for creative differences.
Oh, and that always means so many things.
Yeah.
the polite way of saying the two people.
I know. I can't wait to get into that one.
Okay.
Before we get into the first story, I'm going to just do a little teaser for next week. I just found this out, like, I don't know how many minutes ago. It looks like 3 hours ago is when I found out. But the first issue of Ever and Anon has just been published, and that is the successor to Alarms and Excursions. So we will talk about that next week. In the meantime, let's go into the first one. D&D facing a real rival in Critical Role. Okay.
Yeah.
So here's a question for all y'all. What if the top designers from D&D teamed up with Critical Role to build a new system? What if? Well, it has happened.
Yes.
All right. So we've been talking a lot about Wizards of the Coast losing some of its top people, and I saw something like they lost another 5% of their D&D folks, or maybe of the whole company.
It was of all of Hasbro. I saw that was another story I was thinking about doing, but I figured we were going to kind of cover it. It was like 3%, I think, but it was all Hasbro. But you're getting ready to say.
Yes. So we've been seeing all kinds of announcements of departures from Hasbro, and or not from Hasbro, from D&D specifically. So rather than going into all the different ones, and there's a lot of interesting ones, and there's some speculation to be had there, but until we get somebody from Wizards or from the inside to come on and talk about it, we will not speculate. However, two of them are pretty well known, and that was Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford. So Chris Perkins, as folks may know, was recently promoted at WotC to creative director, and then he left. And Jeremy Crawford, he was the lead rules designer for 4th edition, and he was one of the 5e lead designers. He also left, and now they are both over at Darrington Press, which is the confusing name for Critical Role's publishing company. Right. I did find out, so I don't watch Critical Role. I don't know all of that stuff. But I realized that apparently Darrington, there's a character from their first campaign named Tyrion Darrington. And so they named it after him. I don't care.
Okay.
Anyway, so they joined Darrington Press. And now Chris Perkins is the creative director for Darrington Press. And Jeremy Crawford is the game director for them. And, for anybody who doesn't know, Critical Role is the thing that kind of put D&D on a lot of people's radar, people who didn't ever think about it in this, in the new generation.
Yes.
And it's honestly, I think it's kind of changed the way that a lot of people view D&D, don't you?
I think so. It was kind of hard because, whenever I would get together with folks at conventions or just talk to anybody from other play groups, I always felt like everybody was seeing D&D differently than me. And then I realized I feel like they're all seeing it differently than each other. Mm-hmm. And I think Critical Role was one of the first really coherent properties out there to really start honing in what this looks like and what the feel is, because they had a way to deliver it tangibly to everyone that you didn't have to buy a bunch of books and read them and stuff. You just sit down, you watch this thing, and I get it. I get what D&D. That's their taste of D&D. So I think that was, and I think the movie, the latest movie that came out was very. I mean, I'm not gonna say that it was in line with what they were doing, but it was very similar to what they're doing.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if I think back across all the different incarnations of D&D over the years, and that's one of the reasons that everybody has a different idea what it is, because there's been so many incarnations, there's
Right.
really only been 2 times I can think of, maybe 3 times, where there's been anything you could point to and say, this is the flavor of the game.
Right.
Like in the 80s, TSR leaned in so hard to the merchandising and the toy side of it. And, you kind of take the D&D cartoon and all the action figures and all, and it was really kind of in the public perception, kind of in that He-Man universe kind of world, that
Yeah.
to somebody who doesn't know anything about it.
Right.
The kind of a half I would say is there were a bunch of D&D movies, like a bunch of B-list movies.
Oh, they were terrible.
I don't know if they gave anybody a flavor for what it was. But everybody kind of played it their own way. Like there was no, this is what D&D is like.
Right.
To the general public. And so this is the first time that the general public has looked at it and said, okay, this is a different flavor than, say, Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's got this. I think D&D now has the general public perception of being something that's a little bit theater kid.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever use that phrase in college, the theater kids?
I mean, yeah, I think we call them the drama kids, but same thing.
Yeah. So there's a bit of that now. It's kind of left the world of nerds, and it's, I mean, in the public perception. I'm not saying that nerds aren't playing it. Nerds are playing it. They're just playing it differently.
Well, it's different kinds of nerds now.
We'll see when I finish my research project on what a nerd is.
Okay, all right, that's cool. That's cool. Well, that's what we call theater nerds, like the theater kids. We refer to them as theater nerds. I mean,
so it's got that flavor, and I think kind of I don't know what happened between Critical Role and Wizards of the Coast. I don't know why Wizards of the Coast was stupid enough to let them go.
I don't know. It felt like it was theirs to let go.
Yeah. It was the dumbest move you could make. They had Critical Role basically turning D&D into a what's the word? A cultural phenomenon.
Right.
And then whatever happened, they split apart. And so it was only a matter of time before they made their own game. And now they have. So they've got Daggerheart. And it's pretty different. I haven't played it yet, but I've, dug through it a little bit. The main thing is, well, the first thing I was trying to do is figure out why is it even called Daggerheart?
Yeah, what's that about?
Because Pathfinder, Dungeons and Dragons, Castles and Crusades, all of those
Tunnels and Trolls.
Tunnels and Trolls, right? Well, that was all the ampersand world, like Castles and Crusades, Tunnels and Trolls, D&D.
But all those names make sense.
Yeah, and even Pathfinder, you're going on an exploration, you're finding your path. So Daggerheart, I couldn't find a definitive answer to why it's called that, but there's a good set of theories.
Okay.
And they all basically revolve around the idea that the dagger represents the combat and heart represents the role playing. And one person on Reddit had a pretty good theory that I kind of go with, which is that Matt Mercer apparently was a big fan of a game, an Elder Scrolls game called Daggerfall. So maybe that was in the back of his head somewhere.
All right. I mean, look, Daggerheart, it's a cool name. It's fine. It's a good name.
I think it's stupid.
Really? Okay.
I think it's a stupid effing name. It's honestly the one thing that kind of holds me back from looking at this and going, yeah, that could be the big thing. Because I'm like, it's pretentious as shit. It's just pretentious. But you know what? That's what I think of that whole world. And I'm sorry, everybody who loves it. I just think that the whole Critical Role gang is a bunch of pretentious theater losers. I'm sorry. I just do. I'm so tired of this. I want to play an adventure. I don't want to play kissy time with orcs.
I hear you.
Anyway, let's get off Jason's soapbox.
I like Jason's soapbox. I think it's funny.
The point is, though, I mean, it's going to be huge. They've got boatloads of money from all of their things that they've done. They've got millions of fans, and they've got people who are more loyal to them than they are to Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And WotC has done a good job of, they've tried to ride the fence so hard that they've upset everybody. I mean, New
It's like
players.
we've said this before. I've said this a million times. Homogeny is the death of creativity. You cannot make everyone happy, and if you try to, you make a shit product. It's
You've got to
awful.
have a point of view. You've just got
Mhm.
to. You
Yeah, like
can't.
the stuff we make. I want there to be some people that hate what we do. That's
Yeah.
cool. That's good. Good. Because
Yeah.
that means there's some people that love what we do, and that's what I want.
Yeah. You got to be a little bit Marmite,
Mhm.
you know? So they upset a lot of the newer players with, just dumb stuff that WotC did, whether it was not being sufficiently culturally sensitive or whether it was, whatever it might have been. I mean, they
Mhm.
were, I don't know. And they've upset a lot of the old school players because, it's like, hey, this is different than my old D&D. So, what's the new thing?
Yeah.
And then they did but just for the game itself, they made some big stumbles. You can go back and listen to what Mike Merles has had to say about what he thinks of 5.5. And he's the guy who made 5th edition. So I mean, I listened to him. I mean, he skedaddled the heck out of there. He went over to Chaosium. Or now Asmodee, I guess.
Asmodee now. Yeah, but I mean, he left when he left there. He went to Chaosium, and that was
and now Asmodee. So WotC has lost all the people that knew what the heck was going on there. Now, who knows what they're doing? And so, yeah, here's a bunch of people with millions and millions of fans built in. This could be the new Pathfinder.
Could be.
Pathfinder took advantage. So Pathfinder showed up because Paizo was already in the tent. They were making Dragon Magazine. And when Wizards dropped the ball by making 4th edition and upsetting people, Paizo was like, hang on a second, we already published stuff. Why don't we just publish a game?
Yeah,
and so now it's really the same kind of situation. You've got somebody who is in the tent with Critical Role, and WotC drops the ball by making a version that people are not hot on. Right. Not as bad as 4th edition by any means, but it's upsetting some people. And so maybe this is their chance to be the next big either alternative. I don't know. Can you ever see it actually beating D&D?
It's kind of hard to say. It's a bit of a maybe. I mean, maybe. I don't know. Ed, so we got some comments here. They'll tie into what you're asking. Ed Lopez says, I did a learn to play at my local FLGS.
Local game store.
Yep. Last weekend. He said, interestingly. Oh, interesting. Oh, I'm sorry. I can't read. Interesting. And a couple of cool ideas, but it's not going to replace Castles and Crusades or D&D for me. Yeah. And David Benavides agrees. He says, yep, definitely. Yeah. And modules. So
I think anybody who's an adventure gamer who likes to play I don't want to say old school way, but maybe more traditional way. Yeah. I don't think it's going to pull those people away because the core mechanics here. So first of all, it's got the core mechanic is 2 D12s, a hope die and a fear die. The hope die represents skill and potential, and the fear die represents risk and danger. It already sounds very fluffy.
Yeah, that sounds
fluffy. And
if you were explaining that to me and I didn't know anything about any of the rest of this, I'd already be like, oh, well, look at the time.
I'm like, I'm not going to kiss you, so I'm leaving now.
Right? Yeah.
And then they have this thing that it's kind of neat. All right. A lot of people have played with the idea of using cards for your character sheets. I mean, yeah, Munchkin. I mean, when you play Munchkin, your cards are a character sheet. I've thought it was a pretty cool idea too. It's expensive. We know what it costs to print cards.
Oh yeah.
But I get it. The thing is, the cards, it's actually, thankfully, it's not like you're not managing your hand, you're not drafting, you're not collecting. It's not a card game. The cards are just basically a visual character sheet.
Okay.
But it seems gimmicky. Do you have that image? Can you pull up the image of the cards?
Oh, I do not. I cannot.
That's fine. So, hey, everybody, we're trying. We've been doing all our notes in PowerPoint so that we had a little deck. We've switched over to Notion, and now we've got some learning curve on that. So we're still figuring out where we keep our images and stuff.
Right. Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit of a learning curve.
Yeah. But Notion's cool.
It is.
Anyway.
Cool.
So yeah, it's kind of gimmicky. It feels
this
like
set's
it's trying a little too hard to be not D&D.
This is going to be an expensive ass set. I'm looking at, you got a hardbound book, you got a You got a box with like card separators, all these different cards. You've got tokens and dice and a screen. Oh man. Whew.
I mean,
How
it's not the
expensive is
worst
that going
idea
to be?
from a business perspective if you can get people to keep buying small things like cards and,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. I hope it does well. But anyway,
Yeah.
but the thing is, the people that have been doing all this so far have not really been professional game designers in the sense of, well, what Chris Perkins is or what, Jeremy Crawford is. So that's the big thing here, is that
Mhm.
now we have two of the biggest names from Wizards of the Coast that are actually in here going to shape this new game. I think that's going to be the thing that makes the biggest difference.
Yeah, I think so too. I'd have to
Yeah.
agree. It was a good move on their part to pull that. However they pulled that off, that was a good move.
Yeah. So hold on one second here. All right. So yeah, anyways, we'll see what happens. I wish them all the best. I really wish, Chris and Jeremy the best. And it looks like from the photo of the team, it looks like a very fun group of people.
Mhm.
Just for all of the theater kids out there, I will point out that it is the whitest group of people I've ever seen.
That is,
But,
yes.
whatever. And it's a big deal. Having two of the big Wizards folks there, definitely a big deal. So
Yeah. All right. Very cool. All
You
right,
wanna
let's
take
go to
this
the
one?
next one. So, Dark Horse reveals first Dungeons and Dragons comic. It's not the first one they've ever done, but it's the
First new one.
first new one.
First 5e one, right?
Yes, it's gonna be the first official 5e comic. And they've got it's written by Greg Pak. And did you say that you knew who was it that you knew?
Right. So I want to dive a little bit into they have got an incredible A team here.
Mhm.
I'll be honest, I don't know Wilton Santos and the other person as much, but the Greg Pak, first of all, he is one of the best writers in mainstream comics right now. He's huge. He did the X-Men comics, he did the
Mhm.
Star Wars comics. He's a big deal and he's really good at this. The funny thing was that, so I was thinking about that. I'm like, why does that name keep seeming so familiar to me? So I used to do a music and culture magazine called Permission back in the day, and on our last issue in 2005, we did a profile of Greg Pak when he was just getting started. So
Okay.
he had just finished his first feature film called Robot Stories, and we were doing like an all robot issue. So, I met him at the time, and he was just this really cool, creative, interesting person. Sometimes you just meet somebody and you're like, they're gonna do a lot of cool stuff.
Right.
And so now here we are 20 years later, and he's not making the films anymore. Now he's writing comics, and it's just neat to cross paths with him virtually again. So very impressed there. And the letterer is Nate Picos, who is the man behind Blambot. He has won an Eisner Award for lettering, the
Mhm.
highest that you can get. And if you ever want great fonts for
Oh,
comics,
the best.
Blambot, yeah, because the thing is, he's written books about why you letter things a certain way. I mean,
Dude, I
he
have one.
knows the deal.
I have one of his books on lettering. I bought it. I don't know. I guess because I used to be a draftsman and I love like drawing fonts and stuff like that. And so when I saw his book, and I've been using his fonts forever. I've actually purchased quite a few of them.
Nice,
Like actually purchased them.
yeah,
Didn't pirate them. I bought them from
and
him.
he charges fair prices, like
Yeah,
30
yeah,
bucks.
yeah. And
Yeah,
they're
it's not
awesome.
hundreds.
But his fonts are outstanding. I mean, not just in the way they look, because like that's one of the things you can go on one of these sites and download all these
Sure.
cool looking fonts. But like if you're into fonts at all or into kind of any layout or whatever, you have like your kerning and your just all the like really
Yeah,
technical
all the
parts
thing
of
has
the
to be
font.
built in there, like the hinting, the kerning, the
Yeah,
advanced character sets, the
right.
ligatures, if there are any. He really is a typographer.
Yes, he does that. He actually really does. He's not just building it for looks. Those fonts are completely functional, and they do everything that a font, like a professionally, like something that a big company, if they were a font building company, would do.
Yeah.
And so
And
yeah.
every month he picks a couple to give away for free.
Yeah, so
So that's kind of nice
he's
too.
really awesome. I mean, I guess I don't know. He's not paying us anything, but I'm happy to give him a free commercial. Go buy some of his fonts; they're awesome.
Yeah. So this is right off the bat, they picked the best team that you could pick for this. Just really cool.
That's really awesome. And so there's not a whole lot on what this comic's going to be because it's new because they just announced it. And so there's not a lot of information to give on it. It looks good. I mean, as you can see, here's the pictures they have for it so far. Again, they don't have a lot of stuff out because it was just announced. So I don't think they have a whole, I don't know how much they have.
Well, so here's what I know about it so far is that the fallbacks, that's this group of adventurers that we see on the cover. They already exist fictionally in some books by Jaleh Johnson or Jaleh. I can't pronounce her name properly, but Jaleh Johnson wrote some novels already. So she's a YA author, young adult author with her own series, World of Solace. But she also has done licensed stuff. She wrote some Assassin's Creed novels, and she's written about half a dozen D&D books. So the characters come from her books. I don't think the story here is going to be related to stories she's already done, but I kind of get the sense that they're like, sort of a misfit bunch of adventurers that they fall backwards into adventures the wrong way.
Okay. All right. I get it now.
So that sounds pretty fun. And you can get the flavor a little bit looking at the artwork, I think.
Now it's interesting because the picture I have up here on the left is a lot more what would you call it, fun-ish, freeform than the cover, which is more serious. So I don't know exactly which direction they're going with it, whether it's going to be a more fun anime-ish style or if it's going to be a more serious style.
Yeah, because you can kind of pick out, which character is which between the two of them, but they don't look too much alike.
Right. Especially that guy down the bottom with the mace.
He's got a great big beard, and then in the other one, he's got a small beard.
Yeah, they look very different, but whatever. It doesn't matter. I think it's going to probably be pretty good.
The cover gives you real serious, almost like Marvel, vibes.
Yeah.
Well, they both kind of do. But
I like a good D&D comic. I mean, as long as I've seen some dumb ones, but I've seen some really good ones that I really liked. So
I love both of these art styles because they're not super typical. I mean, you've got to be mainstream for the kind of people that are putting this out, but it is still Dark Horse. So, I mean, it's mainstream, but at least it's one of the alternative mainstream ones.
Yeah. Dark Horse has always been good. They put out a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. So, what do we have here? Who's on the team here? We have an elf rogue named Tess, a human fighter named Anson, as in, I guess, Anson Williams. I think that's such a callback. You got to be Gen X or older to care who Anson Williams is.
Okay.
Otzi from Happy Days.
Oh, right. Okay.
A tiefling bard named Lark, and a dwarf cleric named Baldric. Excuse me. You can't. Come on, Baldric.
Yeah.
From Blackadder. I mean, one of the most famous characters of any. Anyways, you can't just take his name. And an Ultiug named Uggy.
What is an Ultiug? What is that?
Yep, I knew you were going to ask me that, and I should have looked it up. I don't know.
Okay, no idea what that is.
But they look fun.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
It looks good.
All right. Well, let's go to our next story then, Dan.
All right.
Now, this is a big one. This is a big deal.
Yeah, this is a big deal. And we need to give Panda a call. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So here's the deal. Panda, they're board game manufacturers. So for us, when we do our books and our modules and stuff, I think we're going to just stick with our smaller printers in the United States that we have, right? That's fine. We can go with them. But when we need to make our card, like we've had Kiss My Grits sitting, we've had the Kickstarter page ready to go for months now. The game's done, and we just can't start it because we're like, what's happening?
Right.
And other stuff like that, other games like that. So they're good for that. Panda is they're huge. They launched in 2007, and they've manufactured about 70 million units so far.
Oh my God.
70 million.
2007. That's it. It just feels like they've been around forever. Like that's seems to me that has been the biggest name in game manufacturers that I've ever heard of.
Yeah, I mean, whatever they did a good job.
Right.
So, they have been hit with the same problems everybody else has been happening. Hold on, I gotta go a call back here because Benavides just said in the chat, an Otyug is a monster that eats poop. So a dog?
Yeah, my dog might be an Otyug.
Yeah. All right, back to Panda. So yeah, they have been in China this whole time. Huge. They make the games for Asmodee, Stone Mayer, later games, all that kind of stuff. And just like everybody else, they've been dealing with the uncertainty in the world of tariffs. And so they are not moving. They've partnered up with a company in Brazil called Kawagraph. And they are now creating Panda Brazil.
That's amazing.
So I tried to look up a little bit about the history of this, of the tariff thing, because it's so complicated. It's so hard to be sure because every tariff is based on what kind of product it is, and they have all these universal codes. You can't just say there's like a standard number, but for board games and tabletop, what we're concerned with, it's relatively easy to follow. So we know it got up to 145% at one point.
Right.
And that was where a couple of companies just folded their cards and said, we're done. Now they have put some sort of a truce or a pause in place for 90 days. During this truce or pause period, it's at 30%. When we get to the end of the 90 days, which will be, I guess, mid-August, there's no idea what's going to happen yet.
Right.
But just I looked it up to get a little bit of history on what the tariffs have been like over the years. So the typical tariffs we've had with China before the first Trump years were under 1%. So 0.8% tariff.
Crap. Okay.
That's been our normal thing. And I'm sure every business in America has been lobbying for that. I'm sure that's been a case of everybody from Walmart to Volvo has probably been like, look, we can't be paying a lot of tariffs. We want to manufacture in China. We want to bring it in 0.8%. That's the baseline. Start there. Then Trump came in, and I didn't really pay attention to this the first time around. So he slowly ramped it up, and it got all the way from under 1% up to 21%. So that made a difference to things for sure. And then when Biden took over, he more or less left Trump's tariffs in place. They went down a little bit, down to about 19%. But you know, if we're saying that 20% is crazy and you shouldn't do it, well, both parties have been doing it. So, you know, something, whatever. Take that for what it's worth.
Right.
And then Trump got back in and was like, you know, we all know what happened there. It went up to 145%. So that's the history, basically. Right now it's 30%. I know when we worked out our numbers for Kiss My Grits, we said, okay, we can calculate that.
Right.
But we just have no idea. Nobody has any idea what's going to happen next.
Right. And we don't have enough buffer to like say, all right, well, if we have to eat it, we'll eat it. We don't have that kind of buffer.
No,
we can't eat it.
And the trouble is, like, if we launch a game right now on Kickstarter, we worked out the dates the other day with Brian, and basically we would be getting our stuff into the US ports in late October, and we have no idea what the tariffs are going to be then. So, you know, we can't take that risk. Right. But the other thing that's happening that I didn't think about is that, forget about just the tariffs, shipping is spiking way high, because during that 90-day pause, everybody's like, hurry, get your stuff on the boats, get it over here. They don't have enough boats.
Right.
So the shippers have been cranking their prices way up because,
Jesus Christ, you can't win.
Yeah, because, like, you know, if you've got enough room for 20 people and 100 people want to get on, you're gonna, I mean, that's economics.
You're gonna jack it up, right? That's what you do.
So that's happening. And then, of course, you know, the Strait of Hormuz just got shut. Was that the one over in the Persian Gulf?
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, well, yeah, Iran just, their parliament voted to, is it the Strait of Hormuz?
I can't remember. It's if it's the one I think it is, that's a major deal. That's a big
The
deal.
one that basically, if you need to get into Kuwait or
Yes.
Iraq to get the
Yes.
oil and then bring it out, you've got the Persian Gulf. If you want to get in and out of the Persian Gulf, there's a strait there that
Yeah.
Iran controls. And so, of course, they shut it down.
Isn't that the one the Houthis always are shooting at?
I'm not that sophisticated to be sure.
Okay.
But the point is that now we have this extra wild card. It's kind of similar to when that ship turned sideways in the Suez Canal.
Yes.
It's going to be a similar effect.
Oh, Jesus.
So just think of all the chaos that's going on right now. Forget tariffs, just the shipping. So what I'm leading to with all of this is that it kind of makes sense for people to say, we can't deal with anything that involves going across the Pacific or the Atlantic right now.
Right.
And so it makes a ton of sense for them to go to Brazil, because getting back to the point here, because Brazil right now has 10% tariffs. And even if other companies go to Vietnam or Malaysia or wherever, it'd be very easy for the administration to just say, well, we see you doing that, so we're going to slap the tariffs on Vietnam instead. So Brazil is totally under the radar. That nobody's looking at that. So right now, if you're manufacturing a game and you need to go outside of the United States, this sounds like a really good idea.
Yeah, no, dude. And Brazil is actually it's a great country. They good for them. That'll be a good boost for their economy. I mean, it's not going to boost all of Brazil's economy. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying.
But things like this make a difference. And
right. And if Panda does this and it goes over well, other manufacturing will go over there too.
Yeah.
Or at least in South America, and that's good. That's good for South America. I think South America really could use a nice boost with some of its economy.
The whole planet will be doing well if South America does well, because remember, right now, because of all the crap, it's kind of crappy down there economically, right? Which of course, you can take that all the way back to American adventures down there since post World War II, but we'll leave that out of it.
Right.
But like Benavides just pointed out, right now, the president of Brazil right now is a massive piece of crap. He is an utter and complete monster. He has been basically he's threatening to destroy the Amazon rainforest so he can make more dollars.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
Yeah, this guy has got the brains of a 4-week dead jellyfish. But people like that only get into power when the populace feels worried. So if you make South America do better, things can calm down. We could, people will stop trying to destroy everything around them. It would be nice. All I'm saying is it would be really nice if everything went better.
Yeah. Now that's cool. And this is good news because I happen to have a friend of mine who goes down to Colombia kind of regularly. He has a girlfriend down there. And Colombia is like right next door to
She lives in Canada. You don't know where she goes to.
It's funny, but Colombia is right next door to Brazil.
Yeah.
And so the flights and stuff there aren't really that expensive. It's transporting stuff would be very cheap from there.
According to Panda, it's going to save at least a week on shipping time.
Oh yeah.
And if you have a week saved on shipping time, that's a lot of savings on money too.
Hey, Jason, I'm going to piss you off.
Do it.
Because all they have to do is ship across the Gulf of America.
Where's that? I've never heard of it. What?
I heard there's this body of water called the Gulf of America that they
I don't think that's real.
It shouldn't be.
But yeah, I don't know anything about shipping lines, like lanes or whatever, like who goes where, how, when.
Yeah.
I'm assuming they would just kind of go up the East Coast to New Jersey. I have no idea. I don't know.
Or I don't know. They might. I mean, you got the Mississippi, right? Which is
You can't
stuff.
send a you cannot send a cargo
No,
ship to Mississippi.
no, 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 no. I know that. I know that. What I'm trying to say is that the Mississippi has been, like a major, like I'm talking about, like the mouth of the where it empties out, has been like a major shipping area because stuff goes down there and then it gets shipped out from there. So
Oh, like on a truck or a
yeah,
train.
I could imagine stuff going either
Like is it
there.
Biloxi? Is that the big port?
I think so, or is it, or is it?
Whatever it
Look,
is.
I don't know. I don't know world stuff, but I also know Texas is a big one too because you got all the oil refineries there, so
Right.
they
I
do a
think
lot of shipping out of there
Galveston
as well.
is the Texas port.
Yeah.
Yep. And then, of course, we used to have our warehouse down in uh, Florida. So they've got some big ports down there. So, I mean, the point is, I think it's pretty easy to get stuff from Brazil to the United
Oh,
States.
yeah.
Dude, I
Yeah.
mean, if we can get cocaine here that fast, we got to be able to get board games here fast.
Okay. Oh, David says Houston or New Orleans. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay. I mean, I'm just saying, I've seen the movie with Tom Cruise where he just flies all the drugs in. So
Yeah.
just stick them on a plane and drop them over some cornfields. We'll be good to go.
Yeah. We'll get Smokey and the Bandit to bring him up to us.
Yeah,
Eastbound Down.
that's
All
what we need.
trucking.
We need a new Smokey and the Bandit 4 or 5 or whatever number to be up to.
Mhm.
This time they're driving board games,
Yeah.
and replace Burt Reynolds with Pedro Pascal, and you're good to
Okay.
go.
He looks like a Burt Reynolds. He looks like Burt Reynolds.
When I saw Narcos, I'm like, how did they
Is
get
that
Burt
Burt?
Reynolds to look so young?
Yeah, no, right. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, next game.
Okay.
Or next story.
Next story, next and last. Let's go there. All right. Tomb Raider RPG canceled for creative differences. Now, I want to say I think I knew there was a Tomb Raider RPG.
I had no idea there was a Tomb Raider RPG.
I think, or maybe, I don't know. Anyway, so I mean that's kind of Tomb Raider RPG is okay. Like the thought of that, like before we even get into this story, the thought of a Tomb Raider RPG is okay. It's really
Like
just
Indiana Jones thing.
right. It's just a modern pulp adventure game. Is really what it is. So you wouldn't even have to call it Tomb Raider, which is going to tie into this. You could call it. I mean, it could be anything. It doesn't have to be Tomb Raider. Like
You got to help me out here though, because I never played Tomb Raider.
okay,
Is there enough to the franchise? Is there world building in the franchise? Or is it just Pitfall Harry?
Not really. It's kind of like it's a lot like I mean it's a lot like Indiana Jones or there was another another video game. I'm trying to think of the name of it, but they made a movie
Pitfall
out of that too.
by Activision.
Well, no, they made a movie out of it. It's it had,
Why don't they make a movie out of Pitfall by Activision?
They should. But no, I don't think there's any real like world to it. It could be anywhere. But it's basically just Indiana Jones today.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is cool. There's nothing wrong with that. That sounds like a fun game. Matter of fact, I might know something going on with something like that. But at any rate, I mean, hey, for matter of fact, that could very well be top secret easily. You could with a little bit of work, just a tiny bit of tweaking.
Simon Harding says it's if you brought mysticism to top secret.
Yeah, there is mysticism in it. That is true. There is mysticism.
We will be bringing mysticism to top secret with Agent 13.
Yes, we will.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I've been working on that some, and that's going to be fun. And the beauty of it is the way I'm going to do it. The way when I'm wrapped up with revamping this thing, I'm going to try and keep it as much the same as because I don't want to like redo a whole thing. I'm trying to keep as much as Flint's book as it was, but one of the things I want to try and make sure is that you could just pull stuff out of it and like play top secret with the stuff that's in it if you want to add those things in. Like some of the
I don't know what you're doing with it right now. I thought we were just going to convert everything to the modern rule set and just take it as that.
I am, but there's a lot of stuff in there that we didn't have. Like anyway, it doesn't matter. It's not. I'm going to do the least amount of change as I have to.
Yeah.
But at any rate, I do want to make it so that it's very, very compatible, very gelled into our rules so that if you were playing top secret and you're like, oh, I like that. That's cool. I want to bring some of this mysticism stuff into my top secret campaign. You'll easily be able to do it.
Nice. So tell them Tomb Raider. We're talking about Tomb Raider. So
we are talking about Tomb Raider.
So apparently it existed and now it's dead.
Yes, it was being made by Evil Hat Publishing.
Okay.
And
Evil Hat, is that Zach?
I don't know. I can't remember. Okay. I always get these mixed up.
But I'll look it up while we talk.
Yeah, it's been canceled due to creative differences with the IP licensor. which is an
Yeah,
interesting
that
way to
that's
say
that.
that people get in fights with each other over stuff, and they always call it creative differences. So I gotta wonder if that's the case. Like, we
Yeah,
want to do
yeah,
this.
that's when
No
Eddie Van Halen and David Lee Roth are punching each other in the face, like, "It's creative differences."
differences, right? Or what? Dave Navarro and Perry
Farrell.
Farrell
Ugh.
just recently.
Well, if anybody's wondering whose side to be on Dave Navarro's side,
That's
because
that's
at
what it looked
least
like.
he's not a pervert.
Right. Yeah, that's true. So
Allegedly, do not sue me.
allegedly, yeah, we don't know. But despite the cancellation, so here's the good news. This is not a bad news story. This is a good news story. Despite the cancellation, development team intends to rework their efforts into a new original setting and system.
Good.
So it sounds like they're just going to go ahead and make that not Tomb Raider game, which I think will be fine. I think I see no reason why not to do that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So what do we have here? So it was called Shadows of Truth, and you
That's
were
what it
truth
was going to
seekers.
be called. That yes.
I always wonder about, so I've when you do a licensed game that has as its setting a major character like James Bond or Indiana Jones, or here Lara Croft. So you play allies of Lara Croft. Does that mean,
Yes.
I guess, you couldn't play Lara Croft?
I guess you could if you wanted to, but
But
everybody's going to fight.
officially,
Yeah, but everybody's going to fight to play that character, right? Like if you're playing a James Bond game, who gets to play James Bond?
right, right. So you're in that cinematic
Yeah.
universe.
Yes. Which again, we'll go back to there's not a lot to that universe. I mean, there was some stuff in the game. I haven't played all the games, so there's probably more that I know about. But from what all the stuff I've seen and read, you know, like what do you, they're not taking anything from that. There's nothing to take from that universe. These truth seekers they probably made up for the game. So
Yeah.
why not just put them in your own game? So that's
People who play more video games than me should really speak up here, because I
yes.
don't get it. When any of these Tomb Raider style games, I'm like, okay, so they feel railroady to me, first of all. Like you have to go from place to place, and then it's like you're not going to lose, So I mean, you're not going to die. You'll eventually just keep going. They're not open world. I mean, I don't know. What do you do?
Some games are. I mean, like, so the Cyberpunk game is there's a lot of missions and stuff you got to do it, but there's so much side stuff, and there is open world that you can just do. I think once you get past a certain point in the game, you can just run around and do whatever you want and get mixed up and stuff.
Yeah. Like
So
even Zelda,
some games,
the open world versions of Zelda are not really that open world, because you have things you have to go through.
Right. Yeah. It's never going to be that intense open world because somebody has to write those stories.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you only have so many stories. But at any rate, so you would take on like you said, the roles of the truth seekers, and these are up on the screen if anybody's for those who are watching, and if you're not listening, just listening to this in your car right now. There's the companion, the change, the hunter, the crafter, and I'm assuming that these are just roles that different people play. Like you don't have to play I don't think you're playing the person.
They look like
archetypes.
archetypes.
Yeah, I think they're archetypes.
And I've become such a bigger fan of archetypes, because as we have been messing around with Lucky 13, which is the system behind Top Secret, on as little sort of side projects, we've both been playing around with things like that. And will one of them make it to print? I don't know, but it's been interesting to see how to adapt this idea of you don't have classes, you just have skills. Mm-hmm. And the skills, you could bundle them up into an archetype.
Yes.
I've been really enjoying that approach.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's what they're doing here, it kind of makes sense. Like, okay, you're going to be the hunter, you're going to be the companion. These are the general things you would do, but you could pick stuff from another skill set.
Yeah, and I think it falls into these different categories of like how you like the game. Some people like the game, like to build their character from the ground up. Everything. I am whatever my skills say I am.
Yeah.
But there's a couple problems with that. One, if you play a lot of the same adventures with the same group and the same DM, you basically wind up with 5 versions of the same character, because everybody's going to be buying the same stuff because they know what they're going to be running into with that game master. That can happen. Secondly, it's easy to get sidetracked and then not really be good at anything. Like, I'm okay at everything, I'm not really good at anything, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas with an archetype, yeah, you can pick the skills you want and do whatever you want with them, but you are heavily geared in directions to where yeah, when you're done your character, let's say you take a fighter. I'm just gonna throw that out there, fighter, right? If you take a fighter, you're gonna be a good fighter no matter what you do, no matter how whatever else you screw up on the character, your character will
Yeah.
be a good fighter, and that's what you wanted to play. And I think it's just easy because if you're like, hey, I want to play a thief-like character, and you took that archetype, then you don't have to worry about going off the rails and being like, oh fuck, I'm not a good thief at all, because I've
Right. And
done
the
that.
cool thing about it is that if you are playing an archetype based setting, so you say, I want to be a thief, but I do want to occasionally cast a spell. So I'm going to
Mhm.
be like, okay, I'm going to take a little bit of skills
Yeah,
in some of that, just
yeah,
enough. And it's ordering off, it's ordering a la carte instead of buying, pre-fixed meals.
yeah. And I personally I do like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I think a
So
healthy
if
mix.
they take this and they actually repurpose it for something else, that could be pretty cool.
Oh, another thing. Oh, one more thing that I want to mention about what I think goes well with an archetype, and it's how I've when I'm working on the razor stuff because I do have
Mhm.
some archetypes in there, especially for like more blood. Um, it's it's not only your skills and stuff, but it's also how you approach every problem. So your archetype is how you handle problems. The warrior, I have a problem, I hit it with a sword. That's how I
Mhm.
solve problems. Whereas your academic, oh well, there must be some knowledge that I need to solve this problem. You can solve any problem with the right knowledge.
Mhm.
Even a fight, I can figure my way out of it. That kind of stuff. A thief, is always like, well, I can lie or sneak or trick my way out of any problem.
Yeah.
And I think that's important when you're talking about your archetypes. And I think there should always be some kind of special something for that archetype that lets them lean into that. Like whenever you have to lean
You're
into
kind
your
of
solution.
defining the personality within the archetype as well.
Yeah, yeah, a little
Yeah,
bit,
and then
somewhat.
the nice thing is it's a framework,
Right.
like you start with that, let's say it's a game you've never played before. I'm just going to jump in with a pre-made archetype and just go with it. But then after you've been playing it long enough, you start really customizing and doing whatever you want.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
this looks cool. It
it
says it
does.
was a D6 system, which
Mhm.
a lot of people like. It sounds like it
Yes.
might be. I don't know. Is Evil Hat usually D6?
Ugh, I don't know.
Yeah, if
See,
I know.
yeah, I should find out because Evil Hat comes up in our news a lot.
Yeah, we should get Zach on here sometime to talk about this stuff because I actually didn't uh, know who he was till I ran into a page and we were just talking about vintage computers because he also collects like what I do here. Um,
Mhm.
so he was a really cool guy. I liked him a lot. Maybe we should just reach out to him.
Absolutely. All right, that sounds
All
good.
right. Hey, look at that. All the stories are done.
Yeah, I mean, that's it.
Nothing
Oh,
else
and
happened this week.
no word on the Tomb Raider thing, like when it's
Yeah.
coming out or anything like that. It's at some point.
Yeah. So next week we will talk about uh the new Ever and Anon, which is the successor to Alarms and Excursions. I'll just say it's really cool. Let me just say why the name is so cool.
Okay.
Alarms and Excursions is a line from Shakespeare.
Okay.
A and E. Switch the letters around, A and E becomes E and A. Ever and Anon is another Shakespeare line. And it also means,
Okay.
this continues, it goes on and on. So it's the continuation of A and E. It is the most perfect name.
Oh, that's
And we'll
good.
show their
Okay.
new logo next week. It is beautiful. It's really cool.
And is this multiple people doing this?
Yeah, it's just like Alarms and Excursion. It's an appa-zine. Everybody makes their own zine. They send them in. It gets compiled into one big appa.
But I mean, is it gonna be more than one person compiling it, or is it still just one? Is it gonna just be one person?
It's a collective. You know,
Okay.
everybody. I've been on the Discord. Hanging out with everybody, just kind of talking about what they're doing. And if I could ever get extra time, I want to write some stuff for it because I want to help.
Okay.
But we'll talk about it next week.
Okay.
And we'll also be getting some guests coming up soon. I know Joey said he wanted to come back on
Right.
now that Weird Heroes is going to be available to more people than just the backers.
Scott Congable's gonna come on and talk about his stuff.
Yep. We've got a guy who has created a really cool little tool for picking up your cards off the table. It's just a neat little bit of engineering. I've got some cool guests coming up, but we'll figure out what all that is later.
All right. I just want to mention before we roll out, Patreon stuff went up this weekend. Lots of good stuff.
You did a bunch of stuff.
killing myself. Brian's in the chat here. He helped me with one of them. He helped me a lot with one of them, the handguns one that we gave out this week or this month. And then of course Scott Congable's Tradecraft stuff was, I'm basically just reformatting that and just trying to catch any errors or anything like that. But the rest of it was, pretty much me generating this stuff, and it was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. So I really enjoyed doing it, and I'm getting my groove. Like you're gonna see this continue because now I have a pipeline, so it doesn't take me nearly as long as you would think to do it. So anyway, if you should check out the Patreon, it's totally worth it. I mean, and like I said, we got a free thing up there, got a good freebie up there. If you just join as a free member, you can download it. It doesn't cost you a penny.
Yep. Guns.
Yeah, man.
All right.
I have that book, by the way.
Yeah, I do too. It's actually a really good source book.
It is.
All right, everybody. We'll see you in a week. If you are a Patreon super duper or extra super cool member, what are the levels?
It's a Navigator and Seeker.
If you're a Navigator or a Seeker, you automatically get access to our Patreon. So come on in and see us. We'll be there in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, we talk about anything. Talk to you later.